Hey guys, we're going to do a internal hip rotation exercise here. It's a Pails and Rails trying to increase and expand range. We're going to use a modification here where you can do it standing. Some people can't really easily get down on the floor, and so this works well, and you can use whatever height your hip can allow, as in how much hip flexion or knee coming up your hip can allow. So you could use a chair height, or you could use lower, like just a few books, or whatever works for you on the edge of something, okay? So we're gonna assess that in number one. We're gonna check what our hip can allow. So if you have 90 or more, then a chair height is probably gonna be good. If you can't even get to that, then start lower. So start on a couple books or a couple blocks or something like that. Perfect. So we're gonna bring our hip up and we're gonna internally rotate actively to what our range is. And I'm kneeling that, working on the outside of that hip there. So to do this yourself, I'm gonna use a pole to stabilize. What you can use is just the edge of a wall or a chair or whatever, right? If you have a pole at home, use that too, that's fine. So we're gonna lift up, we're gonna internally rotate, then we're gonna place it on. So I've just got a chair there. And so now my hip is, you might need to wiggle yourself around a little bit and find that. But my hip is lying into its passive internal rotation. I'm not feeling a pinch here, I'm just feeling work on the outside here. If it's too pinchy, you might be too flexed forward, straighten yourself up and bring yourself a little bit back, or bring your knee a little bit forward. So I've got this angle here, and now what I'm doing is I'm actually slightly leaning a bit this way to drive it into the outside of that hip. So the stretch part is literally we sit here for 2 minutes. That's that 2-minute passive hold. The reason to do it is that when we're trying to acquire new capsule space, new range, we need to give it time for the tissues to start to relax and let go, and the fibers start to release, right? So I feel this here, I feel this even stretching on the inside here. It's a really nice, it's that hole around my hip capsule, but it's a really nice stretch. So I'm holding there. If you feel it through the knee, you can always bend the knee a little bit, or just back off with how much load you do. Just listen to your body, what it can handle. So now, once we've done 2 minutes here, we're gonna hang out, we do our 2 minutes, we're going to now do our contraction. This is where we're going to teach our brain that we can control this range. If you don't make your range active, you will not keep it. So passively stretching a lot of things in certain things like yoga, etc., is not a bad thing, but you most likely won't keep that range. So if you want to keep range, you got to work for it and make it active. So we're going to start by contracting. So I'm going to try and internally rotate. The chair is going to meet the resistance, so the chair will not allow me to go any further. So I'm going to start from the hip, trying to rotate my hip inwards. That internal rotation, driving, ramping this up to my greatest effort. Hold this as hard as you can. Tensing, my whole body's radiating tensing. Pack that air in your abdomen. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And rails is we're gonna try and externally rotate, lift off. Now you are unlikely, because we're at end range, I'm at my end range here, I'm not lifting my foot off, but I am actually engaging all this tissue on the outside to try and externally rotate my hip. This is where you might see some cramping. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sink and let it, so you can kind of pivot and rotate your hip around to feel this nice stretch through that internal rotation. Hold again for another minute and repeat the sequence. So I'm going to slowly come out of that. With Pails and Rails, always come out slow. And what we always do is we go back to our joint capsular work. So we're going to come up and we're going to do a hip carves. And we're going to reinforce what we just gained by opening that range. Foot goes back, open, pull back up. So you just do with some tension, maybe 40-50%, a couple reps of full single leg hip carves. Search that on my YouTube if you don't know how to do this one properly. Pulling all the way out if you've done slow and control. Right, so remember, doing internal rotation. We're gonna flex to what we can, we're gonna internally rotate, then place it on a subject, as in a chair or block or whatever, and then we're gonna passively, slowly sink into that. So coming up, Internally rotate, place it on, and let yourself sink. If there's pinching, pull out of that, change the range, allow your foot to go that way, whatever you need to get rid of that pinching on the inside. Stretching on the outside is what we want, so that is good, right? So that's your hip internal rotation done in a standing version.